Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, James. Likewise, share the enthusiasm to be here in person for the first time in quite a long time. Great to see everybody here. So the state of the app economy in 2022 is what I'll be talking about this morning. Before I get into that, I just want to take a few seconds to talk to this, because the last time we presented at this event, we were called App Annie. And now we're called something different. So you're probably, some of you might be familiar with App Annie as the market-leading intelligence platform for mobile apps. We still are that, thankfully. But our name has changed. So just a few seconds on that, and we'll kind of go back in time quickly. So 2018, our company made a big shift. Our data science capability focused on evolving our machine learning capability. We've been working very hard on that, fast forward to today, and more than 85% of the estimates that we provide in our platform are driven by artificial intelligence. So as a result of that AI machine learning capability, that brain, if you like, that can now be applied to data in addition to mobile apps. Indeed, it can be unified with first-party data. So that's really what drives our ambition to be the first unified data AI company. Annie lives on. She lives on in all of us. But it has evolved, it has adapted, which is a bit of a theme for today. So that's me, Managing Director for EMEA. Very quickly, disclaimer, none of the estimates that I'm sharing today are meant for the purpose of investment decisions. More importantly, here are just a small collection of the customers that we have the privilege to work with around the world. We really do work with all sectors and all businesses at various different parts in their growth journey. And let's start here in terms of a bit of a review of 2021. So the start of each year, we produce this State of Mobile report. It's a really robust body of work which just reviews as much of the kind of signals and insights from the previous year. And as you can see here, starting with downloads, we saw 230 billion in 2021. That was up 5% on 2020, 19% on 2019. The growth in app consumer spend was more significant, getting to 170 billion in 2021, 19% on 2020, 42% on 2019. I keep referencing 2019 just because of the impact of the lockdown was so significant. The data point that always gets a lot of attention from BBC or CNN or any kind of news outlet is always just how much time are we spending with our devices. That was aggregated across the top 10 markets as 4.8 hours in 2021. We'll look at that in a bit more depth in a moment. I'm sure many of you are invested in the kind of fight for user acquisition each day. That's one of the components driving the mobile ad spend in 2021 to be $295 billion. We expect that to be $350 by the end of this year. And now there's in excess of, or rather 233 apps now driving in excess of $100 million in spend each year, 70% of those from the gaming sector. So there's some kind of high-level statistics to get us going. So as I said, a third of our waking hours now spent on mobile. Let's try a little bit of an icebreaker. I can see many of you are on your phones. Anybody care to shout out what their average screen time is per day? I'm guessing it should be high, seeing as the title of this conference and all. Anybody? Come on, this is a bit of audience participation. Shout out. 7. Do we hear any more on 7? Yeah. About 7. Any more? Any more? Yes? Hand up. 7. Okay. All right, well, there we go. I did expect it to be pretty high. So you're higher than the average across the world. And as you can see, it's continued to grow. Even kind of 2020 on 19 was significant. Pretty much across every single market. Probably most notably there, China decreased year over year. We do believe that's the impact of the government regulations around under 18s gaming on their mobile, so restrictions of exactly when and how many hours each day. So that's in terms of time. In terms of how many apps were published in 2021, again, it continues to scale incredibly. So predominantly on the Google Play platform, 77% of new apps published. And naturally, what follows there is is mobile ad spend, as I referenced before. So consistently growing in excess of kind of 20% each year. Recent Apps Flyer report kind of confirmed around kind of 18 to 20% in terms of user acquisition growth. We see a similar number there across multiple objectives. So So that's a little bit of a snapshot of 2021, the biggest year for mobile. So what do we expect for 2022? What have we seen already in Q1? So these are kind of new data points, fresh, hot off the press, so to speak. And firstly, looking at ad spend and the 33 billion that has already been spent in Q1. 65% of that being driven from the iOS platform. And whilst gaming does represent a significant proportion of that, what we are seeing is significant growth in OTT, entertainment, in-app spend, and also kind of social apps driven by content curators, starting to be a far more significant component of that in-app spend. When we look at the perspective of downloads, we see quite a different perspective here. So Google Play predominantly driving around 28.5 billion of the downloads we've seen so far in Q1. The big markets for Google Play being India, Brazil, Indonesia, key growth markets of Turkey, India, and Mexico. Quite a different story on iOS, where the major markets are US, China, Japan, and key growth markets of the US, Brazil, and Mexico. From a kind of category perspective, what we're seeing in terms of downloads in Q1, it is the normal kind of gaming, social, and tools which are driving the predominant, the main growth in downloads. But interestingly, quarter over quarter, significant growth in house and home at 18%, and news and magazines at 10%. So interesting kind of signals that the kind of maturation of this market and different kind of demographics which are spending more and downloading more. So just the last perspective on the kind of view of Q1. As you can see, kind of quarter over quarter, no huge change in the normal providers from a monthly active user perspective. Snapchat had a very busy Q4 with a lot of augmented reality shopping experiences with the likes of Under Armour and Hollister and Amazon and Coca-Cola. So that really drove their downloads in the latter part of Q4 to jump a couple of places. Equally, Shopee, now available in 13 markets across the world in Asia, South America, and Europe, means that they jumped 3 places. The real story is that kind of central table there in terms of consumer spend, and it builds on a similar theme of what we were just referencing. This increased investment or spend by consumers in streaming apps. So 8 out of those 10 being streaming apps, we're seeing significant growth in that sector. To kind of dive in a little bit more, what we saw in January 2022 was 46% of the in-app spend on iOS was driven by OTT entertainment. If we go a little bit deeper into the likes of Disney+, around 1/4 of the revenue that they generated in-app was from premier kind of access titles. So again, another signal that there's this kind of maturation and high quality, higher sophistication of what consumers want to spend and what they want to interact with. Also, never a better time than January to get stuck into a box set, I guess. Okay, so all of that is, represents a very buoyant market, and the privilege of working in this ecosystem is a huge, huge opportunity. However, there are key challenges in terms of succeeding in this market, irrespective of the significant, socio-political, economic and political situation of today, which clearly impacts numerous people at various different stages in many businesses. But irrespective of that, just the challenges within the digital industry itself. So I was kind of really debating whether to put this word kind of digital transformation, because I kind of feel like in the bubble that we all exist in, we're already transformed. But the PwC report at the start of the year still found that 60% of executives still rate digital transformation as the key driver to their business in 2022. So it continues to be a moving target, and when we consider some of the challenges in respect of that, well, the lack of visibility, some of the deterministic signals that we've relied on in the past are not there. That regulation is likely to increase over the coming years, driving more closed ecosystems, walled gardens that we need to navigate. The competition for UA remains significant and very much a kind of red water environment. And whilst you can collate data from pretty much every single action, the proliferation of that, in some cases the disorganization of that, means that extracting anything meaningful or actionable can be a real challenge. So in light of that, having this kind of real-time view is critical. And what you're seeing there in terms of that colorful chart on the right-hand side is something we've been working on very hard at data.ai. This is something called AppIQ. This is really solving for the challenge of an oversimplified App Store taxonomy. So what we've done is look at all apps and break them into 19 genres and 152 subgenres, consistent across all app stores. So really taking the challenge of, let's take Amazon, Alexa, Pinterest, and Tinder, currently classified as lifestyle, but breaking those out into much more precise and granular apps, genres, and subgenres. So what you're looking at there is a view of downloads across 2021, and again, this kind of aligns with what we've just been talking about. So in terms of downloads, personalization, tools, social being significant, OTT, and short videos like TikTok driving significant downloads. If we look at the view from a consumer spend perspective, again, this illustrates that trend, which I've referenced a couple of times, which is OTT really driving the significant amount of consumer spend, along with live streaming. So that ability to kind of reward with gems and stickers, any kind of content creators that you really like, and along with dating, which is very overrepresented as well. From there, we can go into a much kind of deeper view and get a sense of within each of those kind of genres what's kind of significantly growing. So OTT, whilst it's the biggest, its capabilities, or rather genres like game service, so the ability to check in on your own kind of game scores, your friends, new deals, etc., which is the most significant. So this just gives a little taste, really, of how trying to kind of illuminate the mobile landscape, trying to give an additional level of granularity. And what we're able to do here is really kind of dig deep on the actual app experience. So, for example, if you wanted to compare retail apps that each have the buy now, pay later functionality, and really start to kind of analyze within that market and adjacent markets. So really a more evolved and adapted way of looking at the market. So last couple of slides, we just wanted to kind of highlight this as well as a way to just ensure that you're monitoring some of the interesting developments or kind of signals which can relate to future plans or future strategy. So this is something we saw in the back end of last year in the Australian and UK market. We noted that TikTok were bidding aggressively on the Spotify keyword term, so occupying around 20% of share of voice for that term. And yeah, that was the clue, perhaps, that a couple of months later they've launched their Sound On platform to let artists directly upload and monetize their music on the app. So again, just another way of ensuring you've got real-time signals to be able to compete in the market. Okay, just a few predictions, and we'll close it down there. So for 2022, we do predict TikTok will add another 50% on top of their existing users to get to 1.5 billion active users. I won't pick out all of these, but Pinterest at 1 billion downloads. We expect that entertainment app group to scale to 12 billion in 2022, and indeed social apps to see around 9 billion in App Store spend as well. That's all from me. My team and I are located just outside. If you'd like to kind of explore anything that we've talked about this morning, we'd love to speak with you. Otherwise, have a lovely day, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you.